Greetings in the name of the Most High. Ah, yes. How can I get this across? There's a lot of people getting very intense about their beliefs and about, dare I say, not legalistic, but I should just say very sort of rule oriented about the form and structure of being saved, salvation, and what you must do. And I think someone had a theory today, for example. I mean, I have to weigh in on this on a holiday, and hope you're all having hoping you're all having a blessed Memorial Day. We've certainly had an exciting time in America. It's certainly been one of the I understand one of the probably the most chaotic times in history, and it's not over. But one surprise after another. I don't think too many people saw Doge coming, or tariffs, or a lot of things that have come that are just out of nowhere, and you'd think to yourself, what is going on? Where did that come from? And I remember I had made a prediction that you would see those things going into the new year in 2025. And they would make sense because you know who's there. Your brain, your mind will fill in the, the tariffs are Trump. Yeah, okay, fill in. Oh, that makes sense. That's not a surprise. And then all the other things that have happened with the peace deals, bombings, and the general struggle of the earth, of the world, which is at the highest level that I can remember. I don't remember it at a higher struggle. I remember I'd gone through I had the pleasure of going through the 1960s, the Vietnam marches, which believe it or not, the left were marching against war, and they were saying, "Make love, not peace. Make love, not war." Remember, hard to find that today. So, there's a lot of things that were reversed. It's the reason they make such fools of themselves, I think, is because they fail to remember history and to remember, how these parties change and morph into each other all the time. And, how you can never really have satisfaction. Now, a few other things I need to mention, and this is just a, kind of a gut feeling, but I have a feeling about Trump that there's like the overarching problem of the extermination of all life on Earth, which is cooking along in the background just as it was before. Or if you like, 12 monkeys. So I've been sort of weighing that, and there's been, as you know, and I know this is hard for us to, because remember, the mind fills in. It fills in. It fills in. It fills in to make it normal, to make it not abnormal, to make it, oh yeah, I understand that. When, no, you didn't understand that. Your mind filled it in after you heard it. So you adapted to something completely outrageous. And, one might even ask a question like, say, on tariffs. When did this tariff thing start? The day before Trump got in the office. I mean, it's just interesting. And when did, it seems also that as we have more peace talks with Putin and Zelensky, we have at this time, they're still trying to kill each other. So we got more bombings going on while we're talking peace. And then we've got the problem with Iran. And so that's certainly a problem that's not going away. The kids today don't know anything because their professors, all the American colleges are shit and don't teach anything. And so the kids can never understand where they are in history. They don't understand what has repeated before, what is repeated again, who the players are, who the real oligarchs are. Oligarchs that you would never know. You never see them in the newspapers. You would never hear about who they are. You would never see them even in a royalty roster. You know, it's unknown. Some people have speculated, well, they're aliens. Or this is the Great Reset is really the Great Death. And so that's the backdrop that that's making, I believe, all of us uncomfortable. That there's this backdrop of total annihilation versus the promise of, you know, the rule of law going forward and arresting, you know, the pedophiles, the human traffickers, the gangbangers. But no, all of that's been stopped. And then on the other side, you have the party going, good, they've stopped the rounding up of these gangbangers and murderers. So we're going to defend gangbangers, murderers, and rapists, especially drug traffickers, and, you know, war traffickers as well. You know, because the fact that the cartels run Mexico, they run the UN, they run the people that've got the drugs, they run everything. So, you know, it's let's just boil it down. You're waiting to be satisfied. I know. You're waiting for that next victory. Someone related to Epstein. You know, somebody that abused, you know, a little girl. Now she's grown up and she's pressing charges and arrests are made. Something like that. You're waiting for, I almost feel like we're in an episode of Waiting for Godot. You're waiting for, you know, let's face it, you're waiting for payback. But you probably, if you feel that the J6 people didn't do anything wrong and they shouldn't be held without due process, and then the entire reason all the justices went against Trump and stopped his presidency is because of, well, you guessed it, due process. Can't make this shit up. But it seems to me there's just a lot of echoing madness, you know, kind of signifying nothing. When the real enemy is, you know, will there be a world or a civilization to protect or to grow? As Trump says, we're going into a golden age. And many people are not feeling that. You know, they're not feeling that. They keep watching the stock market every day. They keep watching for that market to stumble with the idea that they can run them out of town. They don't really care about anything else but Trump. And then after Trump's dealt with, then it's like anyone MAGA is racist and must be executed. And believe me, when I say executed, I mean executed. I mean without jury, without trial. I mean, you know, and you've seen that violence coming. And it reminded me of when I was being gang stalked, and then I'd be surrounded by people celebrating my defeat and my being, you know, upset with them corralling me at some place or a party or some kind of thing, and then making fun of me or, you know, driving around me like jackals, you know, screaming and yelling, you know, that you're never going to win against us, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, you're a fool and we win and all that. And it reminded me of the same thing I saw on, we're in Washington, I believe it was Seattle. There was a Christian group that got together for a worship session, completely legal by Seattle standards, and how Antifa and the trans movement people showed up and basically drove them out of the park. And so this is Trump's America too. Now, if I were president, what I would do is, if I heard a story like that they were driven out of the park, I would follow up on it. I would say there's no place in America it's a place where you can have different religions that disagree. Some people think abortion's fine. Some people don't think it's fine. People that follow Jesus are not going to be entering the trans movement anytime soon. There is no there. There is no real connection, but people can, get along. And according to these people, there is no getting along. It's either our way or die. And the reason is because social justice or whatever, of which what they're talking about, there's none. Now, there's no point for me to go into this anymore. I mean, I can also see it from another perspective, from a Democrat perspective, very easily. People working dead-end jobs, they can barely pay the rent. They're working hard. They're, like this guy, Oliver, with the sailboat that sailed to Hawaii. He had a job at corporate America, Discount Tire. And he was, basically felt it was a dead-end lifestyle for him. He'd go out on the weekends and get smashed with his friends and clubs. And he felt that was like an empty pursuit. And he just dropped out and took all his savings in his 401k and bought a sailboat and sailed to Hawaii, he and his cat. So, okay. Now there's going to be a reason I bring him up now. He was a big hero on Memorial Day because he sailed into Waikiki, into the Waikiki Yacht Club, I believe. And the governor met him there, Josh Green, who I really have a problem with after the Maui fires. And old Josh was so nice to him. And he's just said, "Oh, this is something positive. We need something positive," he says. We need something positive. Because we don't have anything positive. And it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. There's this, if you're on the side of Trump, let's say, you're worried that things will slip and it's just going to, the elements of chaos and hatred are going to push all the people for Trump off the cliff or prosecute them all. Or you're worried about, the tariffs are going to bring about economic collapse or some kind of worry. And I'm here to tell you, and Oliver Widger is the sailor, is a very good example. If you want to watch his progress, I think it's on YouTube. Someone ought to make it the whole thing, so you can go day one all the way through day, I believe it was 24 days to cross. And I got the message from that. Well, I was getting all kinds of, static in my dreams, just really insane about that, people are not people anymore. And that I could see that these bots making these people's lives, and they're not real. And I was like, don't believe it. It's not real. Don't buy into that. It's not real. That's not real. That's not a real person. And so indeed, what's bubbled to the surface in my consciousness is this idea of AI and, what AI is doing in creating artificial people already and artificial lives. And, you can look at Oliver Widger and say, was that real? The question can be there, which is It's enough. So look, if you are moved by all these things that are moving, which don't make sense, and they never will make sense unless your mind fills in and justifies it unnaturally. All the things happening can't happen. It's like there is no human agent in charge of anything. It's all being made. And we're caught up in it. And I was shown how a life was made. And circumstances were made. And stories were made. And it's as if they want us to transition. And now we're getting down to the real nitty gritty here. It wouldn't be annihilation, clean the planet of, carbon. It would be trap people in a digital universe and play God and see to it they never get out, so you can usurp the power that I have in me. What I have in me is very powerful. Sometimes I feel pushed to the end, but I just simply, I know Jesus is real because Jesus worked and nothing else did. No religion did. That's when I realized that Christianity was a false religion, because that would not be approved of by Jesus at all. It's more of a Jesus, I would say, is more of well, I've had a lot of dark night of the soul. Like last night was really intense with these bots making people's lives and making communities and making history. And the only thing that could really ground me would be the fact that I'm rooted in life. Now, the Alpha and the Omega, right, which is Jesus, is life. Okay, that's life. That's also truth. And that's also the way. Those things are exclusive. Those things are not evident in any other person, any other thing you would follow, any man, any God, any religion. And that would include your big religions of, your big monotheistic religions and all that. They don't really count. It's the intense relationship when things are really, really bad. When things are really, really bad, and we've all had it really bad. Like I've thought I was getting ready to die a few times, and I just needed the Lord there, and I asked the Lord, what do you want me to do for you? And he pushed me out here to do whatever I'm doing and squawk on this casual podcast, and but the main thing is that what needs to catch on, what is going to catch on completely. And I didn't think I'd be saying this because I was, I didn't see it before, but that there really is only Jesus that can be the what would I say? He's not the mediator. He would be the, let's just say the beginning and ending of life at all times, the beginning and ending of my thoughts, the beginning and ending of all people, including people that go, I'm too dirty and too sinful, and so I wouldn't count. And I hate Jesus because he makes me feel guilty about sinning. And so I'm going to sin all the more. And that person is, all those thoughts are not separate because Jesus is reality. So it's very hard to understand. But what I saw last night was the bots that are making this electronic universe that seeks to put everyone in slavery. I thought I'd mention to you the way out of that, you know. No, not witchcraft. Sorry. That's the way into that. And those of you who are witches out there, I got nothing against you. Please don't hurt me. But, you know, the thing is it's not about you controlling anything, and it's not about you. It's not about narcissists. It's not about people that just want what they want. It's more of a, people say a relationship, but that does not cover it. Not a relationship, but some people say Christ consciousness is a state of being. I would say it's a state of being. And what happens to people? Well, we forget our state of grace. We forget our state of being. We forget what we look at the Bible as a big rule book. That's a big, poo-pooing of any kind of, fun people might have or whatever. And what they don't really understand is when you're faced with total extinction, at that point, it doesn't matter your party on the weekend. It doesn't matter about, cussing at the football game or being filled with lust at your convention. None of that stuff matters. So I just put it out there because I know that the craziness will get more crazy. How much will you assimilate in the coming years? Are you going to give it all a pass? Trump's going to tariff the moon. I mean, I'll just say anything. Zelensky is going to buy the island of Manhattan. I mean, I'm just trying to make an example. These are the kinds of things we've been hit with. Things that are shocking that no one should accept. When did this paradigm shift into the tariff thing happen? I just mentioned that because it was not around in 2024. It was quite a shock to people, but then they got over it and then they started fighting it. To the extent that you fight will be the extent that you lose. You'll not fight and win. And to the extent that you fight as led to fight or as a destiny kind of thing, then there is no losing or winning. There's just only your duty. When it comes to protecting your family and trying to forge ahead and try to, keep sane, I would really suggest going through Psalms and Proverbs, to start with, and just try to realize what it was. And, people say, well, Joe Rogan's going to church. Well, was that a surprise? I would say so. There's nothing wrong with him going to church. It's what happens to him in church. Okay, you'd rather go to church, but what's happening to him with Jesus is in the church. He feels it's there. He feels that part of a collective worship is the way he has to go, and there's nothing wrong with that. The other mistake I think we make is thinking that Jesus is going to come back to rule and reign. Well, some people say he already has. And then some people say we've had the little season of Satan. And now it's time for the stars and the planets and everything to roll up. And then it's time for the New Jerusalem to come down from heaven as a bride adorned for her husband. See, when you start looking at it that way, and you realize that whatever is in that is in you, then you start to understand, I belong there. I don't belong with nothing. I don't belong with having no hope. As it says in, it's very simple, and people say, well, you got to believe. I didn't believe. I was made to believe through evidence. I desperately needed some help because the world was caving in on me, and they had no regard for anyone, really. And these were, people you see out there every day gunning for you for no good reason. And if I didn't get some help, I would have been gobbled up by it. So Jesus is there. Does that mean that troubles were over? I've had an on and off again, habit of drinking and not drinking and drinking, and I went back and forth, and I've struggled a long time with that. But I don't feel a need to say give up on Jesus just because it's not finished and done with. I mean, I don't even know what the rules are. I know one thing, that whatever I've had to do for self-medication, it was either that or suffer to the point of, complete breakdown. And, so I've had my, I don't look like a great Christian, and I've tried to, I can't compare myself with anyone, and I can't, and I'm a little awkward here tonight, but I'm sorry. It's about time for one of these, right? I'm not in rank, I'm not above anyone, and I'm not below anyone either. I'm just there, and all people are just one. And, and it's just because I was made like the stars. And you see one of those magnificent stars kind of undulating in its plasma, then you realize, my God, those are like angels you talk to. Yeah, well, that's you. You can relate to that. And what Satan has to offer is, Satan being real but hidden, is, temporary. Now, it might go like you say, well, how about the Rolling Stones being Satanists? Didn't hurt them. Well, you know what? A lot of these rock stars are not Satanists anymore. That was just to prove they were tough guys back in the day, criminals. But you check, you'll see more and more crosses. They can see the writing on the wall that we may be paying with our lives very soon. And when the Lord, comes to take me, I would say, just rejoice if you know me, and don't cry. That's what was it? Phil Roberts said. He told his kids, "Don't cry when I die." Well, he died, this weekend, and he was a really fierce, really knew the Bible well. He was really a fierce spiritual warrior and a leader of his family. He was kind of like an Abraham of that family. And they won't be able to replace him. But, you know, we're getting to that point. I see beyond the riots. I see beyond the Antifas versus the ICE. I see beyond the immigration problem. I see beyond all these things. They're swirling around that are meaningless, folks. I mean, they mean something in the carnal world where you pass the butter. Here, how about some sugar? What time is it? Quelle heure est-il? And I wonder what people are going to do. I wonder what people are going to do when they learn that the fix is in. I wonder what they're going to do if they realize that all the timing is God's. This world's not going to go anywhere until God says so. God's the author and finisher of our faith and of us, and of every tree and every rock and every star and every moon. The person of God knows every hair on your head. And the person of God has known you before you were born. So that's that may be where you need to how sometimes you look for a wise parent or an elder. You can go straight to the God and deal with the Holy Spirit. And I keep thinking what I'd like to do is go sit under a tree and play some songs. Look at the nature, watch the river, to see something beyond this strife and this endless gotcha and fighting, which has nothing to do with anything except for us to accept the paradigm, which I think the Lord is telling us, this paradigm is not real. So what you're seeing is not real. And I know that a lot of you got your hopes on Trump, and I know and if you're Democrats, well, you've got a ways to go, but maybe you find some charismatic guy that you put your hopes on him, and you hope that he leads us into a global utopia of happy people. And what are happy people? Usually communists come up to me and they say, I'm just one of 9 billion people trying to be happy. And I just say, well, I'm one of 9 billion people who is happy. Because actually happiness, the way you're envisioning it, is a false concept. There's no need of happiness. Fulfillment, awe, joy, wonderment. It's all about returning to childhood. And that kind of adoration that you have for anybody, for anything, for your mother, for your father, for the Lord, whatever, it's pure. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think you're going to see a lot of that. Because people get a sixth sense, of things. They get a sixth sense that something's wrong, and they're not sure how they're going to deal with it. I know that the Transcendental meditation people are going to meditate. I know the Buddhists are going to chant and or meditate or whatever. I know that the Muslims are going to pray and offer offerings and various rituals. I know the Catholics will do the similar thing. I know the Jews will do something similar. And none of that has anything to do with the right here. I am just like the star. I have an unlimited amount of power within me, but I've been somehow put into amnesia and convinced that I don't have anything. I'm just here at their whim. Anyway, here to just warn you about not buying into the new world that they're trying to piece together in the background. While I think they kind of have it planned that they'll make Trump fail, and then they'll bring in this, or maybe they'll bring a pandemic. And now it's been borne out that we told the truth the whole time. But people are easily, are weak and easily brainwashed, and they want to do what the government tells them. It's no longer the government. They're these, they look like little emojis, these bots. And they're all organized to just remake the world and then entice you into it. Almost like the world will go away, but here's a rescue ship called the world. We remade it in our own image, where you can actually have a life. You can have the life you always wanted. Just consent to be with us. So happy Memorial Day. We've lost too many people. Needlessly, stupidly, spent too much treasure and blood to accomplish almost nothing, squandered our resources, squandered our futures. God gave us everything we needed to pull ourselves up out of this mess. So I thought I'd take today to say something. So God bless you. And I'll see you next time.
How will you get through another world, a lesser world, a world not your own? Are you who they said you were?
If you put a person under the men's telescope, all his memories showed up on a sort of moving picture screen.
And I know what I know, and you're not gonna take it. I'm not going to lie or argue. Not who I knew before. They've changed. Are they another species? Something we don't know. They're not smart. They're dangerous. Will they hurt us? It's like I woke up 100 million light years away.
Thank you.